What if your greatest strength was the very thing pushing people away? It's a strange thought, isn't it? You've worked hard to become who you are, more authentic, more grounded, more resilient, yet you feel an invisible friction. Conversations stop, people look away, a gap forms that you didn't create. You're not doing it intentionally. This is the great paradox of inner work. Sometimes your light doesn't just illuminate, it blinds. As the psychologist Carl Jung explored, what resides in our unconscious often dictates our reality. Today, we explore the 7 subtle signs that your strength is scaring people without you even realizing it, and why their reaction isn't a reflection of you, but of them. What has grown inside you has changed you, and that change sends out ripples that others feel long before a single word is spoken. Stay with me, because what follows will show you why your presence sometimes carries more weight than any argument and why that doesn't mean you are too much. It means you have finally become yourself. The first sign reveals itself in something as simple as a glance. You notice people cannot hold your gaze. The connection breaks almost before it begins. Their eyes slide away as if they've touched something too bright to hold. Jung spoke of the eyes as windows to the soul. But what happens when someone isn't ready to be seen, when your gaze carries no aggression but rather a quiet clarity, an ability to see past the social mask? It becomes a threat to those who need that mask to survive. You have learned, perhaps without trying, to sense what lies beneath the surface. It's not intentional, it's a byproduct of your own inner work. When you've met yourself, you recognize unspoken truths in others. Your gaze doesn't judge, but it sees. And that is precisely what makes it unbearable for those living in self-deception. They sense that you see the cracks in their facade, that you perceive the gap between who they pretend to be and who they are. This confrontation happens wordlessly in a fraction of a second. Yet its impact is profound. Jung called this journey of self-knowledge the encounter with our own psyche. Whoever has walked this path carries an internal light that cannot be hidden. It's not a conscious effort, it's the natural result of facing your own shadows. This light is felt as warmth by some, but as a blinding glare by others, forcing them to look away. You cannot dim it without betraying yourself. People flee the possibility of being recognized in their raw, unguarded state. The less someone knows themselves, the more threatening your gaze becomes. You are the mirror reflecting back what has been repressed. The intensity you radiate needs no explanation. It's simply there, an energetic density that communicates itself through your presence. For those swimming on the surface of life, this depth is too heavy. They feel found out without you having said a thing. Their discomfort is not your fault. It is the echo of their own unlived depth. This seeing you possess is a double-edged sword. It's the foundation of true empathy, allowing you to connect on a level most people crave. But for a person who isn't ready, this gaze feels like an interrogation lamp. It threatens to expose the carefully constructed lies they tell themselves, that they are happy in their job, content in their relationship, or at peace with their past. Your presence wordlessly asks, are you being true to yourself? For someone avoiding that very question, your silence is louder than any accusation. The second sign appears in the way conversations shift when you join them. The room fills with a sudden, strange quiet, or the easygoing banter gives way to a forced, brittle politeness. Topics are changed, jokes fall flat, and you can feel an invisible weight settle over the group. It's not that you said or did something wrong. It's your mere presence that seems to demand a different quality of attention. Jung described the persona as the mask we wear to function in society. But you've begun to set your mask aside. You are no longer willing to participate in superficial rituals designed only to drown out the inner emptiness. This refusal to join the collective theater isn't born from contempt. it's because you simply can't anymore. Your own evolution has made you allergic to the inauthentic. Small talk that exists only to avoid real connection. Gossip that fills time without touching anything meaningful. All of it feels like a foreign ritual you've forgotten the words to. And the people around you sense this even if you never say it. They notice you aren't playing the game, and that disrupts the fragile balance of their social choreography. In analytical psychology, this can be seen as a resonance disruption. When one person steps out of the collective unconscious and begins to live from their individuated self, they broadcast a different frequency. Others feel this dissonance, even if they can't name it. What used to be harmony now sounds out of tune. Your authenticity becomes the disruptive note in a symphony of conformity. For many, superficiality is a shield against the internal abyss. As long as they talk about nothing, they don't have to feel what's real. But you, by your quiet refusal to participate, remind them that the abyss exists. You don't have to say anything. Your silence, your withdrawal from the performance of easygoing, is enough. This creates a paradoxical loneliness. You are physically present but energetically in another sphere. The others sense they cannot reach you where you truly are, and that unnerves them more than they would ever admit. The third sign manifests as criticism that seems to come from nowhere. You find yourself being judged for things you didn't even do. Jung taught that what we reject in ourselves we project onto others. When someone attacks you without a clear reason, they are in truth fighting a part of themselves that they recognize in you. Your integrity, your calm, your self-sufficiency. These become the targets because they touch upon the unfulfilled potential in the other person. The criticism often disguises itself as concern. They tell you you've become too serious and too distant, or just different. Behind these words hides an envy that doesn't recognize itself. Your inner clarity, the fact that you no longer scramble for validation, that you don't justify or defend yourself, is misinterpreted as arrogance. But what they call arrogance is actually maturity. You have learned to rest within yourself. And for those still searching for validation externally, this looks like superiority, the concept of the shadow, which Jung describes so precisely, helps us understand why your self-assurance is perceived as a threat. The shadow contains all those aspects of our personality that we have rejected and banished to the unconscious. When you rest in yourself, you show others that integration is possible. This confronts them with their own splintered potential, with all they could have been if they'd had the courage. This constant low-grade hostility can make you question your own sanity. You begin to wonder, am I the problem? Am I really arrogant? Did I become cold? This is the most insidious part of their projection. They are unconsciously attempting to plant their own self-doubt into you. It's an attempt to pull you back down to a level they can understand. By making you the problem, they avoid the terrifying work of facing their own shadow. Your refusal to absorb their criticism, your ability to remain centered, only confirms their fear. You are operating by a set of internal rules they haven't yet discovered. People who are still betraying their own essence just to belong feel threatened by your autonomy. You have stopped negotiating your truth in exchange for being liked. This radical self-loyalty acts as a mirror, showing others how much they still conform just to be accepted. The hostility that comes your way is often passive and subtle. Sarcastic remarks, the accidental oversight, looks of disapproval. These are all expressions of a deep defense against what you represent. They cannot confront you directly, so they attack you indirectly. The fourth sign reveals itself in a painful pattern. You are the one people call when crisis hits, when they need an anchor, when life is falling apart, but when it's time for joy, for celebration, for moments of lightness. You are not included. Your strength is only visible, only wanted when it's needed to carry a burden. Jung identified the archetype of the wounded healer, the one who has walked through their own darkness and can therefore hold the pain of others. But this variability makes you a resource, not desired company. Your depth is useful, but it isn't comfortable. You offer truth, clarity, and perspective. But that also means the other person has to see their own responsibility, and that is inconvenient. So they come to you only when the emergency is great enough. In times of calm, your presence reminds them that superficiality won't hold, that life demands more than many are willing to give. You become the safe harbor in the storm, but no one wants to stay when the skies are clear. There's a profound difference between being needed and being wanted. You have become exceptionally competent at handling the storm, so you are needed. But wanting is about lightness, play, and shared vulnerability. People are often uncomfortable being vulnerable with someone they perceive as unbreakable. They don't know how to give to you. Your strength becomes an unintentional barrier, leaving you in the strange position of being the emotional center for everyone else, while having no emotional home for yourself. This is the ultimate cost of being the strong one. It's a strange form of emotional utility that's happening here. Your emotional capacity, your ability to hold complexity is activated like a tool you take from a shed when it's needed. Afterward, it's put away again until the next crisis. You realize your relationships have become asymmetrical. You give what others cannot, but when you need something, there is no one who speaks your language. This creates a functional loneliness. You have learned to carry yourself, but that doesn't mean you don't need support. The problem is, your strength makes people forget that you are also vulnerable. They see only the stable surface and overlook the fact that you, too, sometimes lose your footing. But because you don't collapse, because you don't demand, because you carry it quietly, it is assumed you need nothing, and so you remain alone even when surrounded. The fifth sign shows up when you succeed. Your accomplishments are downplayed, overlooked, or met with a chilling silence. When you share a victory, the room grows tense. The subject is changed, or you receive hollow compliments that carry no real joy. Jung understood that envy arises when we see in another the strength we ourselves have given up on developing. Your success is proof that growth is possible, and that is what confronts those who have resigned themselves to stagnation. No one asks how you did it, because the answer would force them to question their own choices. Instead, your success is attributed to luck, timing, or connections, anything but genuine merit. This devaluation is a defense mechanism. If your success is unearned, they don't have to take responsibility for their own mediocrity. There may even be attempts to pull you back down, warnings against pride, about the fall that supposedly follows every rise. This advice sounds caring, but its function is clear. It's meant to stop you from shining because your light shows too clearly how dark it has become for them. The absence of genuine joy for your achievements is painful, but it is also revealing. It shows you who is truly with you, and who was only in your life as long as you stayed on their level. This isn't paranoia. It is the sober recognition that your evolution makes their stagnation visible, and that doesn't create enthusiasm. It creates resistance. The sixth sign is perhaps the most subtle and the most painful. You are excluded without anyone ever saying it directly. The invitations stop coming. Messages become shorter, less frequent, more mechanical. Decisions are made without consulting you. You sense that something has shifted, but no one will name it. Jung described the collective psyche as a field that requires uniformity to remain stable. The individual who stands out is perceived as a threat, even if they have done nothing against the group. Your development has broken an unspoken pact. You no longer participate in the gossip. You don't feed the drama. You don't validate the repetitive complaints. In doing so, you disrupt the very dynamic that holds many relationships together, the collective victimhood. Groups often stabilize themselves through shared suffering, shared complaint, shared enemies. When you no longer participate, it reveals that this structure is hollow, and that makes you a threat. In the theory of group dynamics, this is called homeostasis. Systems, including social ones, strive for balance. When one element changes, the system tries to either pull it back or push it out. Your individuation disrupts the equilibrium. The group can't pull you back because you've gone too far. So, the only option left is exclusion, silent and without open confrontation. Let's be honest, this hurts. There is a silent grief in this exclusion. It's the mourning of connections that you once valued. Part of you will wish you could go back to be the person who could laugh at the empty jokes and find comfort in the shared drama. But you know you can't. That door has closed. Accepting this isn't about blaming them. It's about radically accepting the consequences of your own evolution. You didn't leave them. You simply outgrew the container you once shared. Jung warned that the process of individuation, of becoming who you truly are, necessitates a separation from the collective consciousness. This separation is perceived by others as a betrayal. You have done nothing to them, yet your mere change feels like an abandonment. They sense you no longer belong, because you are no longer playing the game they are playing. And because you've stopped playing, you remind them how much they are still pretending. They cannot forgive you for that. The price of authenticity is high. You stopped playing the role that made you acceptable. The moment you showed your true nature, the group decided you no longer fit. Not because you are bad, but because you are real. And for those still living in self-denial, real is intolerable. The seventh sign comes as an accusation, packaged as an observation. You are told you've changed. The tone isn't admiring. It's reproachful. You are not who you used to be, and this is held against you as if it were a crime. Jung taught that individuation requires courage. You have grown, while others have remained stuck in the same patterns. To them, your development isn't a sign of strength. It's a form of desertion. Your evolution is experienced as a judgment, even if you never uttered a word of criticism. Your progress alone proves that change is possible, and that calls into question the choice of all those who decided against changing. You become living proof that one does not have to remain trapped in old patterns, and that is precisely what many do not want to see. Before you were on the same level, you thought similarly, felt similarly, acted similarly, but now you have developed clarity, discernment, and inner authority that exists independent of external approval. This is threatening because now you might see what others are avoiding in themselves. They fear your gaze because it might expose what they are hiding from themselves. When you are told you've changed, there is an expectation hidden behind it. They are hoping you will feel guilty, that you will return to who you were. Because if you stay evolved, it proves that they too could leave if they wanted to. But they don't want to, and your existence confronts them daily with this choice they've made. They won't forgive you for that, even if they never say it aloud. It's vital to understand that this accusation has nothing to do with reality. You haven't moved away from others. You have moved toward yourself. That is a fundamental difference. What looks like distance is actually an arrival at your own essence. But for those still searching for identity in the external world, this distinction is invisible. They can only see that you are no longer where they are. Eventually, a moment comes when you stop fighting. You stop explaining, justifying, and defending. You recognize that you do not need to be understood by those living on a different frequency. This acceptance is a quiet liberation. Jung called the loneliness that accompanies individuation both the price and the prize. You are not alone because you have failed. You are alone because you have reached a place that few can or want to enter. The power that once frightened others is now your foundation. What pushed people away from you is the very thing that now holds you up. Your refusal to betray your essence to fit into small spaces has brought you here. This is not a loss. It is a return to yourself. You begin to understand that not everyone is meant to accompany you. That isn't arrogance, it's clarity. Some people were important for a certain chapter, but they are not equipped for the terrain you now inhabit. There is a peace that comes when you finally dwell in your own truth. You no longer need to be seen, accepted, or understood. Your presence alone is enough, and those who are meant to recognize you will come when the time is right. This newfound peace is often mistaken for detachment, but it's the opposite. It's the deepest attachment to yourself. You learn that your strength isn't a weapon to wield against others, but a compass to guide yourself. And a fascinating thing begins to happen. While your old world may have shrunk, a new one slowly opens. Your frequency begins to attract other individuated people, those who have also done the work, who are not afraid of your light and who seek resonance, not distraction. The loneliness of the journey becomes the necessary solitude that clears the path for true connection. Until then, you carry your strength not as a burden but as a gift. It has not isolated you. It has freed you from the need to please, from the fear of rejection, from the illusion that belonging is more important than truthfulness. The 7 signs you now recognize are not a diagnosis of your inadequacy. They are guideposts indicating you have walked a path that many fear. You have found yourself in a world that rewards conformity. You have allowed your inner voice to become louder than the voices outside. And yes, that has consequences. People pull away because they don't know how to deal with someone who no longer plays by the old rules, but their insecurity is not your fault. What you experienced as rejection was often the projection of their own fears, the inability of others to hold your gaze, to bear your depth, to celebrate your success, to respect your authenticity. It doesn't speak about you, it speaks about them, about their dissonance with themselves, their flight from their own truth, their refusal to grow. You have chosen not to run that race with them. And that makes you free, even if at times it makes you lonely. The loneliness you know is not that of abandonment. It is the loneliness of one who can see while others are still sleeping. Jung knew this state was temporary, not because you will fall back, but because on your path you will eventually meet others who have walked the same road, who have also set aside their masks, who also know what it costs to be real. These encounters are rare, but they are deep, and when they happen, you know you did not walk in vain.